You know, I wish that they would stop saying that illegal immigrants are here to work in our food industry, because our food industry doesn't hire people and hasn't for at least a decade. They've been automated. I watched the farmer in Texas who worked the fields across from our house. Big fields. 2 employees. That's it. Everything else was machine and automated. So there are no jobs for Americans in agriculture, and there's no job for illegal immigrants in agriculture. I really wish that people would stop saying, well, they're here because they work in agriculture. No, they're not. They're not. There are no jobs. Everything has gone automated and took away jobs from Americans. Now, you say Americans don't want these jobs. I call you a liar. My sister, one of her first jobs was working in the fields before they were automated. You're talking, what, 70s, early 80s? Before the automation of everything took place. This is not, there are no agricultural jobs. My sister started out picking beans. She worked on the spraying machines where they would sit and spray while the farmer moved them up and down the rows with his tractor. And it wasn't illegals that he hired. It was young Americans who were needing jobs. They don't do that anymore. They don't hire illegals either. The farming industry kind of sewed up its own backside and hurt itself by removing the physical labor jobs for Americans as well as immigrants. Now, if you're an illegal immigrant, you don't belong having a job. Now, if you're an immigrant who came here on a visa for work or for whatever reason, I wish you the best of luck, because it's tough. America is not an easy place to migrate to, as most of your fellow illegal immigrants are finding out, especially in cities like New York, California. The sanctuary cities are just putting them out on the street, telling them, find a way. This was only supposed to be a temporary shelter while you took the money we gave you and found a place to live and work and integrate into society. Most of these people have never had a job in their lives because there's no work in their countries, so they say. However, they're coming here with no skills, can't speak the language, and expect Americans to accommodate. No, you're supposed to integrate. Means you should learn some English before you get here. Secondly, don't bring your kids, because if your kids can't speak English and you want to put them in an American school, it's not an American's problem to teach your children to speak English. Most Americans have resorted to teaching their own children. Now, you want to put your children, if you're an illegal immigrant, you want to put your children in school. Be prepared. Schools have more liberties and rights to your children than you do, and can force them onto drugs that mentally destabilize them, hormonally destabilize them, and sterilize them. Is this really what you moved to America for? There's no jobs, the schools are inadequate, and they're going to medically sterilize your children. Good luck in America. That's all I gotta say. I have a question for you. I know a lot of people out here in America, they have issues with our government. But I noticed the Democrats are screaming more and more, civil war, civil war. Why? Why? Why do you want to crush your own chances of success at anything in America? And a civil war is going to do that. Do you think it's going to provide you with more freedom? Nope. It's going to provide you with less. Look, the Democrats have lied to immigrants. The Democrats have lied to woke people to get them on board. And now, those are the ones suffering the most, losing the most. First of all, a mass immigration of foreigners who don't believe like woke people. In fact, in many of them countries, they see woke people as mentally ill or dangerous, so they either imprison, house them in institutions, or give them death. I mean, you think the stoning age is over? Watch what happens to a gay man in Mexico. Yeah, just right over the border. Woke is not accepted. And now you've got millions of people who are not accepting. Americans were pretty tolerant about woke movement because we thought, you know what, it is time to just drop all this garbage of he and she, and it's time for us all to be one people. But the woke people said, no, 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 no. This is about putting out racism and hatred towards Americans. Well, you forgot one thing, woke people. You're Americans. And now the government has unleashed the monster of non-woke through illegal immigrants on your communities. Welcome to being a normal, average American citizen. You have no civil liberties, you have no rights, you have no freedoms. Cops can abuse you in record numbers and years of lawsuits to get it straightened out if you can. So, I mean, if you're not wealthy enough to pay for a lawyer to fight for you, you have no rights. That's the American way these days. And it's sad, but it's a fact. Now, I was watching this thing about non-sanctuary states. Thankfully, my state is included in one of those. It was listed as second. I never believed that sanctuary cities were a good idea because of people like Kamala Harris, who would bring in as many criminals as they could get their hands on. Now, she can't step back from her woke agenda and just denounce it. So she's going to let these illegal immigrants brought in through an illegal app take everything you've worked for away. You think you were afraid walking down the street dressed like a drag queen because of Americans? No. Maybe a few. Most didn't care anymore. We've seen enough of it. People my age have already seen 3 sexual revolutions, so it's nothing new. If people think that woke is a new, it's not. It's old news. And we've dealt with it. You know, I don't feel that the Americans are unjust or unjust in their anger over the amount of people that have been shipped into our country. Now, we're used to getting large numbers. Every so often we get a president that does this. What we're worried about this time is the government-sponsored criminals that are brought in. That's what Americans are worried about. You brought in rebels from Iran, Hamas, Palestine, and these are soldiers who see you and me and anybody who doesn't believe exactly as they do as infidels, and according to their religion, have the right to kill us. In fact, they're encouraged to. That's the religion of Hamas. That's the religions of Palestine. That's the religions of most of these Islamic states and countries. Now, I don't have any religion. That absolutely makes me an infidel. But to know that my government used my American tax dollars to fund this criminal transfer from other countries into our country, intentionally did this, infuriates me. And I see a person like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they are traitors to the American civilian population. To all Americans should see them as traitors, because they lie, then they lie again, then they flip-flop and lie some more, then they flip-flop and lie some more. And the only people they can get to agree that those lies are truth are the illegal immigrants. Even woke has shut up because they're afraid of Kamala Harris destroying everything they worked for. Like taking your rights to your children, taking your rights to protect your children from sexual trafficking, to protect your children from making their whole lives about their sex. Sex is not your humanity. Your gender is not your humanity. Your humanity is part of your spirit and part of your soul. And if you're a freedom fighter and you come here to America, you're going to find yourself crushed. Because there's not freedom here either. Don't all of the illegal immigrants feel like they were lied to by Biden and Harris? Absolutely, outright lied to. And now they're in a foreign country, some with their families, and they're living on the streets, homeless encampments, and more. Yeah, they didn't just lie to Americans, the Democrats. They lied to you, the illegal immigrants. And now you're here, you're scared of Americans, with justified reasons, because you're not integrating. You're going into little cliques. You're turning into monstrous gangs. And that's going to make Americans come out at you, against you. If you were integrating in communities, trying to better the communities, going into a lot of these abandoned homes that are owned by banks and claiming them as your own, Americans might actually support it if you took care of the house, if you took care of your children, and abide by laws. I know it's very difficult to abide by laws when you do not see your politicians having to do it. It's kind of like what's good for the goose is not good for the gander kind of thing. And that's Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Well, now all of you illegal immigrants are here. Are we supposed to go to war with you? Was that the actual intention? Did you know you were being brought in to America to go to war with Americans? Or were you brought in here with the promise of freedom, a chance for working, a chance to have a home, a chance to educate your children? What was your reasoning? What was your thinking? Now, if you did come in here with the intention of, we're going to go to war with the American citizens on their soil, has it been worth the journey? Because now, states like New York and California are saying, no, we can't give you any more money. They're cutting off your money. And you still have not provided for yourself. Because you took that money and you wasted it on garbage, which they counted on you to do. Because now you're broke. and you're homeless with your family. Welcome to America. We're lied to all the time by our politicians. And so you're no exception to the rule. You're just now part of a big problem. And Americans are going to be resentful that you're here. Now, I have to tell you, these countries that sent over the requested criminals by Harris, our borders are, you're going to wish you could go back home. And it's not going to be because of the American citizens. It's going to be because of the Democrats who brought you here. They brought you here to starve. They brought you here to sterilize your children. They brought you here to make our homeless population explode. And you know what? They've done all three of those things. And now you got to put your kids in schools where they are taught that Satanism is okay, that having your hormones manipulated is safe, which we all know is mentally damaging and creates unstable human beings. Plus, your children won't be able to reproduce. No more family after what you brought in, because that's the goal. They couldn't sterilize you in their countries, in your homelands, but they can do it here, and they're going to start with your children. And they're going to say, no, it's woke, it's woke. It's teaching children to not be racist. Yet woke is the biggest racist project I have ever seen swarm across America. It's full of hatred and I'm better than you kind of thing. And I'm so sick of it. You know what? You want to have sex with each other, go ahead. Leave the kids out. Leave the kids out of it. But these foreign countries, they want your kids in the sexual industry because it makes them money. How many of those families are now farming out their children to predators? These are genuine questions. Are illegal immigrants thinking about this at all? That their sons and daughters are now going to be preyed on by Kamala Harris's woke people who think that raping young children is a good idea. That's why they had to bring in the criminals, back them up that this is okay. You're not going to mind at all if we're raping your children or murdering your children or forcing them to have tons of drugs just pushed into their body daily. Yeah. I'd like to wish all the immigrants that came here the best of luck. I really am praying for you. But for all of those who believe the lies that were too good to be true, my heart breaks for you. Because what the American government is about to unload on you is just wrong. It's just wrong. And you're going to blame the American civilians. We don't want your crime. And we don't want you invading neighborhoods and stealing people's homes and cars. We don't want your crime. We didn't say we didn't want you. We said we don't want your crime. The Haitians, most of these people have never worked a day in their lives, ever. And most of them are drug dealers and gangs. So, and that's pretty much all that got moved here. The civilian population that still remains in Haiti is doing quite well without you. Yeah, without you. Their economy is improving without you. And you've come here to be homeless and think the government's going to pay for you to live that way. It's not. It was all temporary. And now they're all screaming, all the states that are sanctuary states, this was only temporary. What did you expect? Of course it wasn't temporary. Just the funding and support for these illegal immigrants was temporary. Their being stuck here is permanent. And now they're criminals. They're considered criminals. Now, I used to work with a lot of immigrants who came here to work for no other reason but to earn some money. Used to live in their communities, and they can get as dangerous as any other American impoverished community. It doesn't change. What does change is, can you go home? Will they accept you back? Because I'm just waiting for Ohio to have its first real winter with all the Haitians that are now going homeless because they're being put out by landlords who say, nope, government's not paying for you no more. You gotta go. And that is happening in record numbers around the country. Not just Ohio. But as far as the animals go, in a starving population like Haiti, animals are considered food, not pets. That's an American thing. That's a UK thing, where our pets are as much integrated into our family as our children. Not in Haiti, not in Puerto Rico, not in Venezuela, not in Guatemala, Honduras, or any of those other countries. They see your pets as food, and they're considered like a free-range chicken, more or less. It's running loose, we can eat it. That's the mentality that came with them because of their living conditions. Why isn't America doing something better? Like making Haiti clean its act up so its residents can live safe, can live in good communities. Now we're all going to have communities with drug dealers, and I don't care how much your house costs. You have no idea if the guy living down the road is a drug dealer or not. Because they're not exactly stupid about it. I mean, some are. Most aren't. They're well aware that if you catch wind of what they're actually doing, so they're going to do it away from their residence, not in it. However, illegal immigrants don't know street knowledge, American street knowledge. I don't think that the illegal immigrants actually need protection. I think the government is going to need protection from illegal immigrants because as they are finding out, they've been lied to. All I've got to say is, welcome to America. Now you have to live like an American citizen under the same corruptions, lying government that has no problem putting violence on you, especially if your numbers are large enough. I don't think they brought you here as an American invasion. They're hoping that might work to create a civil war within the country. I'm hoping Americans don't fall for it. I think that Americans can outfox these sons of bitches. I really do. And there's only one way to do that. Stop making your neighbor, even if they are an illegal immigrant, afraid of you. Stop letting your prejudice run your mouth. or your heart. Teach them. Train them. Help them become Americanized. And in doing that, you're going to give the American civilians population more strength than our government anticipated we could ever have. Because right now they're trying to divide us. American citizen, illegal immigrant. Not immigrant. Illegal immigrant. Now, you were lied to outright and brought here, paid to come here by our government. I get that. I mean, the treasonous act of Harris and Biden with the American tax dollar funding it has gone overboard. But Americans are more angry with their government over all of this than they are the illegal immigrants. They're just trying to figure out how do we get them to integrate into our communities, because our government is keeping us separated. We're not really allowed to talk to them, and they're not allowed to talk to us. Arizona shelters. Now, they say Arizona is not a sanctuary state, and I call them a liar. But Arizona got some of the worst of the worst, as did Chicago, Illinois. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to allow them to take over? Or are you going to teach them to be American? When I was in Texas and I would interact with a lot of the illegal immigrants there, I did teach them at least a little bit of English if I could get them to communicate with me. Most of the time they were terrified of me. And, you know, with the government breathing down their neck, we're going to deport you, we're going to deport you, yeah, they had reason to fear. But maybe deporting you back to your own country that is now prospering without you is not such a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing you don't have citizenship. But if you want to vote in my elections, yeah, we have a problem. And all Americans are going to have a problem with it. I don't care what they show you on NBC, CBN, you know, the alphabet news channels. I don't care what they're showing you. Don't believe it. Talk to your American neighbor. Find out what's real. Try to communicate with them. You know, one gentleman was trying to communicate in Ohio with the Haitians, so he spoke French, so he could talk to them, and they wouldn't talk to him. He's an American. Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. That is the divide that our government is counting on. So Americans, push your way into these communities. Help them. Stop blaming them for the lies they were fed. They didn't know any better. They've never lived here. So it's your job as an American to teach them how to be an American and what it really means to be an American. My heart breaks for the illegal immigrants here. It really does, because not all of them are criminals. I know. When I dealt with illegal immigrants in Texas, in our community, 90% were just hardworking, good people that were trying to get some money for their families to survive. And I still think most of them are. So I'm not going to judge the whole illegal immigrant community based on the news and based on the gains that Kamala Harris, in coordinated effort with those countries, brought into our country. I mean, it is funding a criminal syndicate without a doubt. And they're using American taxpayers to do it. You thought you were going to be free from those criminals in your country by coming here, only to discover, nope, they're coming too. So, illegal immigrants, learn enough English to be able to communicate with your neighbors. That way they don't have to feel so intimidated by you being there. They don't have to feel you're such a major threat. Because that's what we're being told all the time, is that the illegal immigrants are the biggest threat. No, they're not. They can actually be a part of saving our country, if we let them. But Americans can get stuck in their old ways, and their old ways of thinking, and that could be the end of them. The government's doing their land grabs. They're doing what they want. These immigrants think that they are here going to be eating, the manna of the gods, only to find out they're going to starve, or they're being fed plastic food. Not even real food. So all that money they got, they still couldn't afford to live here. And when I learned all these sanctuary states are shutting down the funding for these programs, it's really when I become astonished. Although I can't say surprised. American Granny out. Okay, in this last segment, I just want to say to the immigrants here, all of you, from an American to you, this is important. You coming here has been difficult for us to accept, but it's not because you are an immigrant. It's not because we think you are bad people. It's because we knew you were lied to. We see it. We see what is happening to you. We, the American people. I know you're scared. And in some cases, you absolutely have a right to be. You were intentionally, by our government, invited here and put in harm's way. Americans, we know this because we have lived with this kind of tyranny for more than 50 years. We're not angry with you for wanting a better life than what you had in your home country. That's not why we're angry. I mean, I'm not angry with you at all. That's why in this part of the segment, I'm not calling anyone an illegal. I understand the deportation is going to happen if Trump gets into office. We Americans can protect you through that event. As long as you're not here committing crimes, you're trying to integrate and learn to be an American. You will not be, in an American's eyes, a Latino American or a African American or an Asian American. You're just going to be an American. And that means you're subjected to the same struggles as Americans. But we have experience in dealing with our government, where your violence made you leave your country. We do know ways to deal with our government that does not include going to war with each other. There are other ways, and Some of our finest presidents knew this. But our finest Americans, they're not mad at the people who came here to try and help their lives improve. Not at all. If I wasn't so angry with my government, I would embrace you all. But I'm angry with my government for funding the criminals that you, the immigrants, were trying to escape. My government paid them. Those gangs, that evil, and brought them here with you. That's what Americans are angry about. Some Americans still hang on to the old ways. I get that. I've lived in your neighborhoods in Texas, and most of you are just genuinely good people with hope that things can get better. And they can. They can. But we cannot allow our government in this fragile time, and I'm talking about the Democratic Party, to incite us into a war that is unnecessary. They want us to kill each other. But with your numbers here, for the first time, Americans have the biggest voice that we've ever had. But we need you to join us, to integrate into our neighborhoods, not tear them apart while you scrap. Most Americans will help each other. We got some bad neighbors, but those neighbors usually end up pushed out and just away from the real hardworking Americans. If you came here with hopes and dreams of becoming an American citizen one day, then join with us in our struggles with our government. Let us become stronger because of your presence, instead of everything I'm seeing on the news that says you're tearing my country apart. I know you're angry. I know you feel betrayed. And I know you want justice. Well, that, my friend, is the American way. That is what made America the greatest country on the planet. And it still is. It's just, we've got a bad government. And the government is hoping you and us will be so fearful of each other that we won't connect. We won't allow you to integrate. The government, the people who paid for you to come here, are counting on Americans saying no. But they do not know the immigrants that have come into this country. They're not hearing your voice. Americans are not being allowed to hear your voice. But if you attack us with a loud voice, we're going to come back at you with a loud voice. Like you fleeing your country because you're so tired of being strong against a government determined to rip your life apart and make it difficult. And that is the American dream. And we don't have it any more than you do. But with your mass numbers, learning to greet us, say hello when we say hello. We're trying to open doors. not shut them. We want to help you. We understand you're stuck. Where can you go? What can you do? And now they're starting to take away the money. Welcome to America. That is how the corporate America and our Democratic Party is running the country. We are a republic of democracy. That means we took the best two things of both and put it together in one. I want to see that happen here, right now, in my country. There's no time to waste. Or we will end up killing each other when we should be tearing down our government without violence. There are legal channels you can take to do it. Our founding fathers, they really did kind of see into the future. And they saw that America could shine and be a land of all people. I do believe that about my founding fathers, for all their flaws. And I loved that ideal. In America, it needs to be that way. We need to be able to have our numbers big enough, Americans, where we can stand against tyranny and corruption in our own government by demanding immediate removal of anyone who violates our laws in our political offices. There are things that can be done without raising a fist or raising a gun. That is what America is founded on. That's why censorship is so bad. That's why Americans see it as evil. And it's been there after the greedy presidents started taking over the offices after George Washington. They became like the royal families of Rome. They're deviants. They lie to each other and to everyone else. The Senate and the Congress are corrupted with this, and they've tried to take our voice. Well, it's unity in numbers that gets Americans heard. But we cannot do it through violence. Now, they are going to attack us, all of us, immigrants and Americans alike. I know. I've already lived through it once. And I saw a lot of young, good people who just wanted equality and the right to be friends with whoever they wanted to be friends with. I'm sorry, my dog is complaining at me. He wants back outside. He says, Mom, it's getting warm. I need to go outside. So if you will just give me a moment. Okay, sorry, I lost my place. But the point of all this is get to know your American neighbors. Start saying hi, hello. Introduce yourself. There was a time in America that people did this. Sadly, it was because of segregation that people didn't do it with everyone. But we keep ourselves segregated. And that is not the American way. And I have not once seen it when America was not segregated. I'm tired of the wars, because the ones we're fighting, these don't have the kind of guns that the army uses. These wars are more about freedom than they've ever been. And freedom, sometimes, yes, violence is absolutely necessary to fight for a wrong to be righted, corrected. And I don't want us to get to that stage because it doesn't have to be that way. You're here, there's nothing I can do about it. I don't say that in a bad way. Unless you are a criminal. Now you came in here believing and being told that you were going to have a visa and be allowed to be here. I understand that. And there is not a damn thing I can do to change it back. But I can also see this as a benefit, not just for Americans. Because sooner or later, the government is going to push the inspiration for you to become an American. And so that's going to make you subject to every law Americans are subjected to. Every change of every law will affect your immediate life. And when I say immediate life, I mean the here and the now. We saw this happening to you, and too many angry people spoke. I'm probably one of them. But I also see what's right before me. I can't afford the trillions of dollars that our government, the Democrats, want to charge us to send you back to your country. And in many cases, you were bought by the American government, paid your government for you. Why would anybody barter and sell people, especially an American vice president and president? These are hard questions, but these are ones you need to find the answer to. And you can only do that if you begin saying hello, opening communication between us, the American people, and you, the immigrant. Okay? I'm sorry your criminals came in with you. I'm sorry my government did that. But if you vote for Kamala Harris, you're going to see more of the people you were trying to get away from here. If you vote for Trump, that's going to stop. And the only people that are going to be allowed to come in, because he's talking about working with that app to get it legalized. Because it is a faster way to get a good visa. And I don't see anything wrong with that. But our government paid your government for you to come here. That's how you got the money. You signed up, right? You signed away your life. Because being an American is not simple. It's not the media image that you see. It's not a bunch of rich people running around in fancy cars. That's 1% of the American people. The rest of us have broke down Fords that we're holding together with duct tape. No joke. It's on my truck. I can't afford the repairs for it. So you're going to need to be able to adjust to all of this, because as you're here longer, the more time you spend here, the closer you are to having to abide by those same insane policies. A policy is not a law, although it's treated as such, and I've warned against this before. So, anyway, think about what I've said. Americans, think about what I'm saying. What do you want in your community? Do you want to have your sons, your daughters, your husbands walking around armed while you are armed in your home with your children, fighting against other Americans? This is what creates civil wars. But unity against, from both sides, to do it. No, we're not going to fight each other. We're going to demand change with our American fellow man. That's what immigrants do. You're here to help better our country. You're here to help build our country, not to go to war with us. We have really no reason to go to war with you. We're barely surviving here. So what's our motive? We're not fighting for resources the way you were, but we're not far from that. And if you don't work with us, the American people, we will go there to where your country was. Our country will be the same, but more, because there are so many other people here. To me, this kind of civil war is not worth the bloodshed. We are Americans, and you are stuck in an American society. Don't look at us as your enemy. See us as your ally. I'm not here to get you sent back to starve where you were. It's going to cost me too much. But maybe if you work with us, we can help you establish yourselves here and build a better place for us all. There's no way I can afford the trillions of dollars the Democrats are saying it's going to cost to deport all this. But all I want out are the gains. Everybody else, you're learning the American way. You're having to struggle to be able to grow food, have food. Shelter is almost unattainable anymore for everybody, not just the immigrants. Think about these things, please. I do love my country, and it really is not as broken as the media says it is, because I see that in the communities they're now trying to destroy. Help us fight back. That's how you get to own, and if the government gives you anything, give it back. Give it back. Refuse it. I would rather starve than take from anything from my government, because I know what they will do. No, thank you. And you're going to have to learn to feel that way. And you're going to have to be strong enough to go to city council meetings with us. But you're going to have to share our values. Bring the good values you cherish from your community on the other side of the world. Bring the good part of it. Don't come here with your war words Americans are so sick of the word war. It's nothing but change. It's more way for our government to take everything we earn. And you are going to be subjected to that. But it won't happen if you work with the American people. Stop being afraid of us. We're just as afraid of you. And many of us, we're going to say hi because it's a way of saying, I mean you no harm. Hello and hi should be sacred words when passing each other on a street. It's the same as saying, you're safe. I'm not going to hurt you. Understand that, America. All Americans. And I mean immigrants. Everyone. Get that in your heads. That is the key to our freedom. American Granny out.